Hey everybody, Danielle here, bringing you a quick intro to today's bonus interview for the Peer Diabetes Mentoring Summit. Jen Blanchard has type 2 diabetes, and when I interviewed her, she was managing it strictly with exercise and eating healthy with low carb diet. Update now, this was about a year ago. She is on insulin. Still has type 2 diabetes. She is still out there advocating for the capability for all of us, no matter what type of diabetes we have, to live happy and healthy. She's a great person with a great inspirational story and attitude, and I hope you enjoy her interview. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Inner Diabetes Dominator. Danielle Hargenrader here. Really excited today to bring you Jen Blanchard, another one of my fabulous type 2 people living with diabetes who is basically a diabetes rock star. So I'm going to read you her bio and then we're going to get right into Jen's story. So Jen Blanchard is 38 years old and lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. She was diagnosed with gestational diabetes during her last pregnancy in 2010, but her blood glucose levels immediately returned to normal after birth. Jen was then diagnosed with type 2 in 2013 when going in for elective surgery. Her blood sugar at that time was in the 500s and her A1C was 8.7. She decided immediately to stop driving her car, bought a bike, and then started walking and riding everywhere and gradually switched over to a high protein, low carb diet. Jen continues to exercise daily and her latest A1C was 5.6. So, hey Jen, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Danielle?
I'm awesome. I'm really glad to have you on here, and I'm always trying to find anybody living with diabetes who's kind of just, doing their thing and, being happy and healthy, but especially with type 2, where I think, there's a lot of stigma around it. And I just like to kind of work as a type 1 to kind of like get rid of that as much as possible. So I'm really glad to have you on here and share your story. So why don't you take us kind of on a path, since actually, not that it's been that short, but it's been fairly, recently for you. So why don't you take us on a little story about when you actually got diagnosed with type 2 and kind of how you got to where you are now?
Well, Danielle, like I said, I went for elective surgery and they did the pre-surgery blood work and called me and basically said, hey, you need to go to the emergency room right now. Your blood sugar is very elevated. And when I arrived there, they said, hey, you have diabetes. And at that point, I was quite familiar with that, having gone through gestational diabetes. However, when I had gestational diabetes, I was insulin dependent. So I was doing the 4 shots a day, that kind of thing. So I was really scared when they gave me that diagnosis. I knew what I was getting into, and it was a big blow for me. I will admit it really was hard for me because I knew exactly the devil I was dealing with. So, I managed to have my surgery and I went home and kind of researched type 2 because there are some differences between gestational and needing insulin and having type 2 and not being pregnant. And I started doing all the necessary things. I really didn't get good. I don't have great healthcare coverage. I have public healthcare, and they kind of put me off. We'll make an appointment with the doctor in a month. Take this pill and come and see the doctor in a month and the nutritionist. So I started reading everything that I possibly could on how to take care of myself, having it in the back of my mind that I'd rather avoid doing insulin again, if possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
So you knew about the insulin, and so obviously with type 2, so you were reading things. And so were you, like, I have read that you got rid of your car and started biking everywhere. Were you like an avid exerciser before this happened, or was that just kind of like you were like, I don't want to take pills if I don't have to, so I'm going to try to do this instead? And obviously you said you weren't getting great health care, so this was a lot of like self-discovery. Is that like a good way to think of it?
Yeah, I was kind of like a sporadic exerciser before. I was driving an old Volkswagen. So it was sometimes running and sometimes it wasn't. So I
Right.
was really familiar with getting around without it when I needed to. Um, but I just decided, yeah, I was taking they put me on metformin, and became very sick. It was almost like having the stomach flu all the time, and my
Wow.
hair started falling out.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like taking like pharmaceuticals anyway. So that happened, and I basically, yeah, I just decided as much as I can, I need to walk, bicycle my way around, fight my blood sugars using exercise, and started researching the nutritional stuff. But yeah, staying off the medication, getting off the medication is a huge motivator for me.
Okay. And so you said that you eventually did go see a doctor and a nutritionist. So tell a little bit about that, because I mean, actually, for those watching, Jen and I just met very recently for the first time. We both won scholarships to go to the Master Lab sessions given out by Diabetes Advocates for the Diabetes Hands Foundation. And we actually just haphazardly became, assigned roommates by the organization. And I'm very grateful that we did, because Jen's an awesome human being. But I think I remember you telling me something about your experience with the nutritionist that wasn't great. Or maybe I'm making that up. Is that correct?
No, you're correct. Actually, the physician I went to see was just a general physician working in a public health clinic. And the nutritionist that I saw was just a general nutritionist. She was not a diabetes specialist.
Okay.
Basically, I got the bottom of the barrel type services. And I even ended up teaching the nutritionist some stuff. By the time I went to see her, I was like at 5.4 with my A1C, and was like, I've never seen this before. I don't even know what I can tell you that you don't already know. I got on top of it pretty fast. I was
Okay.
really motivated.
So it was motivation. So like you don't have a background in nutrition or anything, right?
No,
Like,
no, I just did research. I read everything. I was online. I joined, a couple low carb, not diabetic groups, but just low carb eating, and
like on Facebook?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
So you
So
learn through kind of trial and error, like, because that's a thing that I hear from a lot of people, not just type 2, but even type 1s as well, is that they go to, even if it is a dietitian or a nutritionist, and they're saying, they're getting information on about how many carbs to eat in a meal and this and that and the other thing. And the unfortunate outcome of that, sometimes depending on and that's the thing, it depends on the person you're talking to, is that sometimes you're going to get, people recommending that you eat like 45 to 60 grams of carbs per meal, which I'm sure you realize would be detrimental to
yeah.
your health, my health. And, so you end up so I think my whole point of that is that not only did you do the research, but you took action, right? Like you were just like, you didn't just read, you acted upon the information that you got. And then you, depending on what your meter told you, decided whether or not that was working. And then you moved on to the next thing if it wasn't. Does that sound
That's
about right?
a lot of trial and error, because what works for some people doesn't work for others, So it was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
I got really good at cooking. I can brag, I'm very good at cooking now, but yeah, I had to learn how to cook basically on top of it. But
Okay.
yeah,
So you weren't into cooking before this either then.
not really, not a
Yeah.
lot of cooking.
So I'd say that you are a highly adaptable human being overall. Would that be a good assessment to make?
Yeah, I was real motivated, and I realized pretty quickly after starting to eat differently that I was feeling a lot better. And that was a huge motivator for me too. My moods were better, I was sleeping better, I was happy, I'm more positive and happy. So that's what keeps me sticking to it too, is when I do cheat, we all need to
Sure.
have that, right?
Of
To enjoy
course.
life. But I can feel the difference now. I can definitely feel the difference now when I cheat and I'm not eating as well as I should be. So
Yeah, and I think that's like a good point, just kind of like anything. It's like the energy levels that we have is like I spent a lot of time in my teenage years with really high A1Cs, eating, very poorly, and, being aware of my issues, but still doing it. And so it was kind of like, it's almost like an awakening feeling, like if your blood sugars are high all the time and you're used to feeling kind of low energy, crappy mood, like you just kind of become in a way used to feeling that way, and you're like, you think that that's normal for you, but then when you kind of make those changes and you feel the difference, you're like, holy crap, I didn't even know that this other like feeling existed. And then when you feel it, you're like, I want this. Like, I want this feeling more often. And I think that's a thing that a lot of people experience. And I think for you, it's really good that you just kind of latched onto that so strongly and used that as such a motivating factor. So that's awesome.
My teenager noticed it also. He made a comment about not being so crabby in the morning.
Okay. And I'm sure a lot of people deal with that too. Yeah, your kids. I'm sure, you know, your relationships. I mean, I know my relationships suffered when my blood sugars were bad. I didn't, not only was I mean to people, including my own mother, who's my best friend and biggest supporter, but you are more interested in having meaningful relationships because you don't feel so bad about yourself. You know, it's a whole cycle of emotional kind of stuff, you know. So.
Yeah, I have a lot more energy to keep up with my kids, and I'm a much more patient mother for sure.
Yeah, sweet. Well, that's good.
I feel better all around.
So. Good. So, and maybe you can tell a little bit about you said in your bio about you gradually switched over to a high protein, low carb. Like, so were you eating like a higher carb, and like, you know, maybe you can talk about like, do you like count your macronutrients, your proteins, carbs, and fats, or you're kind of in a rhythm, or how did you get there? What was the process of getting there for you?
At first, I learned how to count. I learned how to read my nutrition facts. And I learned, you know, when I overdid serving size, portion size, by testing constantly, you know, every time I ate, I tested after. I incorporated a lot of new recipes. Was never really into vegetables before. I started, you know, experimenting with cooking with more vegetables, more meats, you know, lean meats. But I did have a very carb-based diet previously. I loved my breads and my tortilla chips and my pastas. But yeah, I started reading nutrition facts. I experimented. I pick up recipes constantly online, even to this day, because I don't want to get in that rut of eating the same 5 things, you know? So, I just tried a new recipe for lunch today, spinach and cheese casserole. You know, so then, you know, I'll pretty much test in a little while and see, you know, how that affects. I'm sure it's going to be fine though. But yeah, so a lot of online research, you know, testing, a lot of testing.
Yeah.
Test strips.
Yeah. Cool. So for people out there who are kind of maybe wondering, do you have any favorite like sites that you go to get recipes from, or do you just are you like Pinterest, or where do you find these recipes that you like to follow?
Well, one of my favorite websites is called Low Carbing Among Friends. And it's not a diabetes based group, but you know, it's just a lifestyle, you know, eating low carbing among friends is one of the main ones, that I use. But I also modify some recipes. Like I love a lot of Rachel Ray's recipes. So I will modify them. I've learned how to, you know, use, you know, almond flour instead of regular flour. I try to avoid the artificial sugars. That's one thing that I don't cook with. I was never really a huge sweet tooth cupcake and cookie person in the first place. But I've learned, you know, how to make like cheese chips instead of nachos, you know, to dip with. But yeah, I mostly go on Facebook, and I'm on a bunch of the diabetes websites on there, and they'll put recipes out on Facebook, and I go, ooh, you know, that looks like it could be good, and if I have to modify it a little bit, I do.
Cool.
You know?
Yeah, and I think that's important for me. I've always loved to cook. Like I'm very lucky in that sense that my mom's Italian and my dad's side of the family is Jewish, Russian Jewish. So I have a lot of like food influences, and not necessarily, you know, coming from the healthiest part, but my mom was always kind of a healthy cook, and I kind of got the cooking bug at a young age. But that's one thing that when I, you know, work with people who aren't super into cooking, but I think being able to prepare a meal for yourself is probably one of the most important life skills to have and the most valuable, regardless of whether you have diabetes or not, but especially if you do. And that people are afraid to modify. And I'm really glad you actually mentioned that, because it's like, I think of a recipe as like this little roadmap to a destination. And the destination is you're going to have a meal. But just like there's like 3 different ways that you can get like from point A to point B, there's a million different ways that you can get from the beginning of the recipe to the end of the meal. And if you want to modify, like you said, subbing almond flour for regular flour, subbing, you know, you put stevia instead of table sugar, or, you know, something calls for meat and you don't like beef and you put chicken. It's like, these are personal choices, but I feel like a lot of people are afraid to be like, oh no, it's not going to be good, or it's not going to be right. But you won't know until you try. So you might as well cater it to the taste that you enjoy. Right. So.
Right. Yeah. And I, you know, and I have my, you know, I get cravings like everybody else. So I've learned, you know, if I have a sweet craving, you know, I eat some all natural peanut butter, or some of the dark chocolate that I shared with you at the Diabetes Foundation, you know, the really dark stuff. So I figured out, you know, from testing and trial and error, you know, what satisfies me at that moment. What do I need? Yeah. Play with food, use what I have at home available to me. So
Cool.
it's been, and I actually love to cook now. I never did before. I come from a family, my mom cooked, but she cooked like the same 8 meals over and over and over, and they were not that healthy. So now I'm like, and my kids benefit from it too, you know? So
yeah, I think that's a really important effect too, is that, you know, especially if you're the person that's doing the cooking, the people around you will benefit from it, even though you're obviously benefiting from it as well. But like for me, like with my husband, he's very adaptable in that he'll eat whatever I cook. He's not so much into cooking, not that he can't do it, but he just doesn't want to. And so, and I like to do it. So it's like, you know, when I started changing my health, and this is about, you know, 7 or 8 years ago, as far as like really overhauling everything that I was doing, you know, I went from cooking certain meals to other meals, and he would be kind of skeptical, but then he'd be like, oh, it tastes good, that's fine. And meanwhile, he's healthier for it, but you know, he's willing to kind of just roll with it, which is, you know, also helpful. But you get to kind of pay it forward, maybe even unintentionally. You're obviously doing it for yourself, but you start getting that like trickle down benefit for everyone else, which is really good. So that's helpful.
Right. And the fact of the matter is, it's really hard to eat out. It's really difficult to eat out when you're watching your health, when you're trying to eat healthier. You know, the portion sizes are huge at the restaurants. Now, if I do go out with friends or whatever, I order off the kids' menu. You know, if I want a burger or I make them at home, I use, you know, romaine lettuce to wrap instead of a bun. I've learned how to substitute even when I'm on the go. So it is possible, but it's really difficult to eat out, you know. So it's really beneficial to learn how to prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually think that's something else, another good point that you brought up, is that people do find it difficult to eat out. And I think over the years, I've found it less difficult, because I kind of just go with this like mentality of like, look, if they have protein on the menu and they have vegetables on the menu, you can build a meal. And as someone like myself who spent 10 years in the restaurant industry as a server, as a bartender, as a cook, as a restaurant manager, I've kind of played all the roles in my life when I was younger. People are afraid to ask for what they want because they think they're going to be told no, or they think, I don't know, the cook is going to spit in their food. I don't know what like the real holdback is, but as someone that comes from the restaurant industry, I started working at IHOP when I was 16 to like, I've worked in David Burke Fromagerie, which is one of like the highest end like restaurants, you know, in New Jersey. I've kind of run the gamut, is that if you see something on the menu like that's not necessarily in the same meal, but they know that you have the ingredients, and you say, look, I have dietary restrictions, or you don't say anything at all if you don't want to share it. But if you do, it's like, you know, even better, because they really want to take care of you. Like, can I have this, this, and this as a meal? I would say that 9.5 times out of 10, the answer is going to be yes. we would like to accommodate your needs because we want you to keep coming back here and paying us money. I think one of the big important things is don't be afraid to ask for something that you don't necessarily see on the menu. It's like, so you see sides, it's like they have a side of spinach or mushrooms and this and that, and they have, chicken and, whatever. And maybe you don't need to have like a big carb with the meal, or maybe they have sweet potato instead of a baked potato. It's like, but if you see it on the menu, build your own. Don't be afraid. And I think that takes a lot of the fear of eating out of it, because I think more than anything, people are just kind of nervous to ask for what they want. But take it from me, from spending all those years in the restaurant industry, basically, if you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. But if you do, most likely it's going to end up being yes. So
I've only had 2 experiences eating out where the server will say something to me like, oh, that's for kids 12 and under, when I'm ordering off the kids menu, and then the other time somebody said, well, aren't you hungry? And I take that, I look at it as an opportunity to educate.
Yes.
Instead of feeling bad. And I realize, it's not my fault that I have diabetes, so I have nothing to be ashamed of. And I will just tell them I have type 2 diabetes, and sometimes it's a really good opportunity to educate and to break the stigma, because I've never been overweight. And, 9 times out of 10 people, when I tell them, will say, but you're so thin, you're so fit. How do you have diabetes? And that's a good chance to educate people, that is not a predictor, of diabetes. That doesn't dictate. You can have diabetes. It's genetic. You can get it. And it has nothing to do with anything that you did. And so, but there's nothing to be ashamed of for anybody, for, whatever type they have. And I just choose to look at it as a chance to educate then.
I think that's a huge, I think that's so important that you said that, and that you see it as an opportunity to educate versus an opportunity to get up in arms or feel, like you said, shame or whatever the case may be, because that's again, I mentioned in the beginning, the stigma. It's about having type 2 diabetes. Well, it's maybe if you didn't eat this, or you didn't drink sugary drinks or whatever the case, then maybe you wouldn't have type 2 diabetes or whatever. And it's like that you could get angry and you could start name calling. But the thing is that you can't fight ignorance with hate or anger, and you can't educate people through anger either. So it's like, you obviously are dealing with somebody that is uneducated on the subject, and that's not their fault or anything. It's like, if you don't live around diabetes, you don't know a ton about diabetes. It's like people with diabetes, unless you have a family member with, say cancer, it's like, you might not know the ins and outs of living, you know what I mean? So it's like, so they don't know. And you have to say, look, yeah, I have diabetes, type 2, type 1, whatever the case may be. And whatever you think I look like, just maybe you should kind of eradicate that thought process out of your head, because what somebody looks like is not an indicator of what kind of diabetes they have. And I think that is a brilliant thing that you brought up.
Yeah, it's not an indicator of health at all. The size, somebody's size or appearance. It's not, we are all shapes and sizes, and this disease is genetic. It has a genetic component. So yeah, I just try to educate people as I go along, when I can. And,
Oh, we froze there for a minute. Can you hear me still? That's what I love about these interviews. This is real life, folks. There's no like real camera crew here. I think Jen's a little bit frozen over there. Might have some technical difficulties. Let's wait a second. Okay, so Jen just dropped off. I think she's going to come back on, so I'm just going to sit here and entertain everybody for a few minutes while Jen is gone. But she really did bring up some amazing points, and I think that's right now we're kind of in the midst of this stigma, this fight between type 1s and type 2s about, oh, well, I have type 1 diabetes and I didn't have a choice in the matter, and you have type 2 diabetes, and maybe if you didn't eat such bad food and all this stuff. And it's like, we as people with diabetes who are educated on it are fighting amongst ourselves about things that are just wrong and not factually based. And by doing that, we're kind of spreading this hate and this misinformation to not just amongst ourselves, but then it spews out into the world, which then continually perpetuates that idea that, the only way get type 2 diabetes is if you're overweight, and if you're, you're making bad food choices. Now, do they play a factor? I mean, yes, it's been proven that there's a role in it, but the thing is that there just as often has been proven that it's a genetic factor that has nothing to do with anything that they've eaten. I mean, there are tons of people out there who are overweight, who eat crappy food all the time and have absolutely no incidence of diabetes whatsoever because they don't have that genetic predisposition for the disease. It's a genetic predisposition regardless of what your diet and your exercise regimen is like. So I think, for me, to continue having these interviewing people with type 1, with type 2. And really for me, it's to kind of spread the word of like, no matter what type of diabetes you have every ability to live your life to the fullest and do whatever it is that you want to do, chase after your dreams, live your passions, and kind of use these moments of ignorance that we kind of run into as educating moments that we can bring out into the world and kind of trying to mend that bridge. Because the bottom line is this, is that we are 29 to 30 million people in the United States alone that live with diabetes. And although only 5 to maybe 10% are type 1, if it weren't for all the people who lived with type 2, we would get no attention and nobody would care about making new devices or giving us new medications or things like that. And we have to be, a team to try to get people to get their CGMs, when they turn 65 and Medicare says no more CGMs, and for people out there struggling to get test strips and people out there struggling to get just the medications that they need to live. If we join together in the fight kind of against legislation to kind of make these things happen, instead of saying, well, I hate you because you have type 2 and it's your fault and I have type 1. It's like it's playing the blame game is never gonna kind of make anything better. So now Jen is back and I've obviously have no problem talking by myself. So don't worry, I entertained everybody while you were gone. That's what I do. So
sorry
cool.
about that. I don't know what just happened.
Yeah, sometimes that's the thing. We're on the internet and that's what I always tell people. This is real life. We're just chatting. Like Jen's in California, I'm in Philadelphia. We have internet connections just like you guys and things happen. So I'm glad you made it back. But I was just kind of mouthing off about, the preconceived notions about type 2 and about how type 1s and type 2s, instead of kind of battling amongst ourselves, we need to come together to kind of just as a group of people with diabetes make things better for ourselves as a group instead of like fighting against one another, because it's nothing ever comes of that except more hate. And we don't need that in this world. That's absolutely for sure.
And what I find is the things that frustrate me as a type 2 diabetic are the same exact things that frustrate type 1s. It's the same battles. It's, why is my sugar doing this?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
And it's constant for you too.
Yeah. It's both of us. Yeah.
Yeah. So one other question that I want to ask is that, like, since, what was it, 2013? So and though it's only been a couple of years, has there been anything that you have felt that you've struggled with particularly that you maybe were able to overcome, or something that was a little harder for you to deal with, and then something else, or anything you perceive in that kind of light?
Well, I do get diabetes burnout. And like I was just saying, the number one thing I think that bums me out is when I'm doing everything that I can, doing the best that I can. I'm eating the same thing I ate 2 days ago, getting the same amount of sleep, exercising the same, and my blood sugars just won't cooperate. And sometimes it can be as little as the temperature outside. It can be my menstrual cycle, hormones, it could be stress, that my kids are stressing me out, life stress. And sometimes, I do get some diabetes burnout, some depression. It doesn't last, too long. And I have a couple books that I keep on hand with little tabs in them for, main points that kind of uplift me and remind me to, keep up the good fight, and things will get better. Maybe they'll be better tomorrow, But yeah, that is probably the most frustrating thing, is when my numbers just won't cooperate.
Yeah. And I think we all deal with that. Do you mind sharing what those books are that you find helpful? Because I'm going to put links under this interview with definitely with that one website you gave about the low carb recipes, and maybe to these books that other people might find helpful. Do you know the names of them by chance?
Sure. My favorite one is called The Book of Better. And it's not a like a novel kind of thing. It's like it's got real graphics, real colorful, bold graphics inside, and short entries, entries that you can read, in 30 seconds to a minute. And it's just uplifting. It's just a positive book. And the other one is Diabetes Burnout. And I know there's two of them by different authors, but the one I read is like, it's red with like a tree on the cover of it.
Yeah,
I think it's
I know which one you're talking about. I'll link to both of them because I know both Diabetes Burnout books are really good. So I'll link to both of all of those books. And
yeah.
so,
And that one's written more, it's written more like a chapter book. But I also like that other one, The Book of Better, because it's just encouraging and it's real bold and short. It's, it appeals even to my 4-year-old because the graphics in it are so, they're amazing. And it's just, yeah, it's uplifting. And like I said, I just keep little tabs on my favorite pages, but it also helps, I have friends that I can talk to that keep me going. It's just real important when I get in that space to not, pig out on a Sunday, an ice cream sundae or something like that. I just try to keep myself, okay, I still have to take care of myself, even though my numbers aren't cooperating and I'm just want to crawl under a rock sometimes, is just keep the fight up because it'll be better tomorrow. And if not tomorrow, the next day,
yeah.
So
That's a great attitude to have, a great outlook, and I love it. And it's no wonder we got along so well when we first met. But
no, I'm so happy that we got roomed up,
yeah,
that
definitely. Cool. So I always ask everybody, this is one of the only really structured parts of these interviews, to share your top 3 tips for thriving with diabetes. Like, what are Jen's top 3 tips that work for you for thriving with diabetes?
Well, my top thing would be my top 3. One of them would be to keep in mind that I'm not my disease. I keep that mindset that, my disease is just a piece of me. It's just part of me. It doesn't define me. And I try to keep that in mind, and keep a positive attitude. Positive attitude is like everything. It really, really is. Because without that, why take care of myself? If you know what I mean, you got to keep that. I'm important. My kids need me. People need me. I have loved ones, my parents, they need me. So I have to, stay positive.
So it's not, even if you don't have the kind of will to do it for yourself, it's good to do it for someone else. And I think that a lot of us deal with that because sometimes it's like, I don't feel like doing this. And I think that it's human nature that we will do above and beyond for others that we love than we will ever do for ourselves. So I think that's a really important point to like kind of sometimes look outside of yourself if you're not feeling it. Be like, okay, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for my kids, my husband, my parents, whatever it is. But I think that's really valid point.
So positive attitude is everything, even if you have to get help, therapy, or whatever you need to get there. That's important. And then I would say the exercise when you're diabetic, exercise is great. Even if it's just a 10-minute walk after you eat, if you want to thrive with diabetes, get moving, keep it moving.
Yeah.
Even if it's yard work, even if it's housework, take a walk, ride your bike, whatever it is that you like to do that you can find, no matter how small a person thinks it is, just keep it moving,
Yeah, I always say that to people because I'm big into fitness, but it's like, and people are like, oh, well, I have to do so much to get this benefit. It's like, no, any little bit that you do is better than nothing. Like you said, 10 minutes of walking is going to definitely have a benefit on your blood sugar. There's a Big Blue test, which I'll link to that as well. But it's like the Big Blue test basically just talks about doing, I think it is 14 minutes of physical activity, whatever it may be, checking your blood sugar before and checking it after, and seeing how immediate have movement has a benefit
Right.
on your blood sugar. It's not like you're going to have to wait a week or 2 weeks or a day even. It's like you can see a difference in your blood sugar like in 14 minutes. And like for me, even like if I go to the park for a walk, I either have to suspend my insulin delivery or cut my basal rate in half, because if I don't, I'm going to go low, because just walking or even like a tiny light jog, like I'm not a runner. I don't run really fast, but sometimes I'll like to pick up the pace a little bit. A fast walk will drop my blood sugar in like 10 minutes. So you don't have to run a marathon. You don't have to lift 100 pounds over your head. You literally just, like you said, have to move. Keep it moving. Do it.
You don't have to join a gym. I had a gym membership, and it works for some people, but I never went. I could not stand to go to a gym, and I'm glad it works for some people, but I'm like you. I don't run. And I didn't even enjoy the gym. So, but anything you can do, anything to get moving is important to thrive, because it's really good for your mental health also. You know what I mean? It keeps
Absolutely.
you in a mindset. It gets those endorphins going, which is really important when you're battling a chronic illness. So, that's got like double the benefit. And I do it a lot too when I have my cheat meals. I'll, say, well, I'll have a slice of pizza and I'll go for a walk afterwards. So it's okay. And I avoid that guilt. I don't have like oh God, I shouldn't have eaten that. Because I'm like, well, then I'll just get my butt moving and work it off,
That's huge. Absolutely. Like for me, and I kind of go by the same thing, is that I have a cheat meal every week. And sometimes that cheat meal turns into 2 cheat meals in the same day. But that day, the only thing, and I don't feel guilty about it, because guess what? I don't care. Like I earned it. I want to at least every 7 days, I want to have to like satiate that mental feeling of, if you feel it, I don't ever feel like I'm being deprived, because you can wait a couple days to have some crappy food. That's how I rationalize it with myself. And that's kind of what I teach clients too. It's like, look, I'm not going to put you on a diet, because I don't even like that term. You're
Right.
going to build healthy lifestyle habits. And a good habit is that every 7 days or whatever, once a week, whenever you plan it out, you kind of go and have whatever you want, because you're not saying to yourself, I have to wait 3 months to have something, delicious or, kind of treat like. You can wait a few days. And like, that's actually a really good way too, to build what I call your willpower muscle, because people are always like, oh, you have so much willpower. You have so much willpower. It's like, yes, I do. And just like I have muscles here, because I lift weights. If I didn't lift weights over and over again, I wouldn't have those muscles. If I didn't practice having willpower over and over and over again, I would not have a strong ability to have willpower. It's a muscle that you have to kind of condition, just like anything else. So if you say, it's Saturday, I'm going to have my cheat meal, but then I'm going to make sure I work out. I always work out on that day. Like that day is always a day that I won't be skipping working out, because kind of in my mind kind of negates it a little bit. But at the same time, and then maybe Wednesday comes and I'm like, oh God, I really want pizza or donuts or whatever it is. I'm like, okay, that's cool. You can wait till Saturday. And then that's it. Like the conversation is over, because it's only a few days away. It's not that far out of reach. So it's like, yeah, sometimes it's a struggle, but at the same time, it's like, guess what? Flex that willpower muscle, girl.
Right.
Like that's how it is. So
That's a great way to look at it. That's a
yeah.
great way to look at it. And I would say my third thing that you need to thrive with diabetes is to have a good support system, to have people around you that are supportive, not that they need to deprive themselves of what they want to eat or, anything like that, but people that understand the battle that we're fighting on a daily basis, that are encouraging, that understand that we get stressed out and extra cranky sometimes. I mean, and I'm dating with diabetes, and I've had the experience of dating. I dated somebody who was constantly bringing cookies over and stuff like that when they would come to hang out. And no, that's not supportive.
No.
That's the opposite of supportive. You can eat that stuff, but you don't have to bring it around to my house, that kind of thing. So supportive people, that's everything. It really is,
Yeah. I totally agree. And I always tell people, it's like, that's why I love the diabetes online community, because I'm lucky, that my husband's very supportive and I have a supportive mom, but I know a lot of people out there don't have that support system at home. And that's what I love about the online community, 2diabetes.org. I'll link to that. Like, I've probably linked to that 100 times, but it's an online forum that you can basically just go and talk to other people that are living with diabetes. And sometimes, actually, most of the time, you're not looking for somebody to fix anything. You're just looking to have like the ability to sound off. Like, hey, I need to like get this off my chest. I need you to understand why I need to get this off my chest. And I just need you to listen and say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be better. Or whatever. I don't even need you to say anything. I just need you to listen. So the online community is full of that kind of support, whether it's 2diabetes.org or whether you join one of the, I don't know, hundreds of maybe thousands, I don't know, Facebook groups that, you can kind of pick and choose which ones you want to join, and you can go in and post. You could just event post, and then people might comment and say, whatever they're going to say. And, it is what it is. But it is nice to have that ability to just have that support of people that understand. So I think that's also huge. And one of the reasons why I do these interviews, because it's supportive for me. I know this is like therapy for me. I hope it helps other people too. This is not, it wasn't actually a selfish move to do it in the beginning, but the more I do these interviews, now that I'm up to like 30 or so, I'm like, I don't think I can stop doing this, because I love doing it so much. So
it's therapeutic. It really is. And I've never experienced anything like, the master labs, where it's like everybody in there is very familiar with it. If they're not living with it, they're living with somebody or near somebody or knows somebody that's living with it. And it's, and it's one thing to live with it, and it's one thing to be, to be supportive, but not really get it. You know what I mean? To not have it. And it was amazing to be around so many other people that live with it. It's indescribable almost, like the camaraderie and the relief, and I'm not alone.
Yep. And nobody out there is alone. I think that's really what I always want to, you're not alone. Like, but the thing is that you're not alone, but a lot of times the support's not just going to fall into your lap. You have to take action to get the support. That you have to be willing to say, I need help. Will you help me? And I think that that's something that all human beings have a really big problem with, because we want to feel like we're strong and we're capable. We can carry this weight. And, that's great. It's great to want to be strong, but at the same time, it's a weakness to not be able or willing to let other people help you sometimes. And we all need help. You need help. I need help. Everybody out there watching needs help. The strongest person in the world needs help sometimes. And that's okay. That's not a weakness to need help. It's a weakness to pretend like you don't need help, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of us out there that are not interested in passing judgment, or, passing, well, you shouldn't have eaten that, or you shouldn't have done that, or you're not doing enough. It's not like that, so I think sometimes people are afraid of that too, being judged, and they shouldn't be, because there are plenty of us out there living with this that completely understand the draw. For me, it's that, Reese's peanut butter pie or pizza, and I totally get that, the frustration and the cravings, and then, the victories too, the good A1Cs, so there are those of us out there that, we don't want to judge others. We just want to be supportive of each other, so yeah, people need to reach out. I totally encourage that.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, this was such a good interview. And I probably say this during every interview, that if I didn't like cut it off, we could literally sit here and talk about this like all day and all night, because we're just passionate about it. But alas, we both have lives. You have kids. Yep. So is there anything else that you would like to add before we kind of close it up here?
No, I'm real happy with this and to share my story. If anybody has any questions for me, they can look me up. And
well, that's what I'll do is like, I'll have Jen give me whatever way she wants to be able to be reached. And I will, just like I always do, I'll link under the blog and I'll link under the YouTube video, so you can reach out if you would like to talk to Jen about type 2 diabetes or anything else that you'd want to talk about. So cool.
Yeah. Gestational diabetes too. Been there and done that too, so
Yeah.
And
Those are two things that I have not dealt with. So yeah, definitely want to talk to Jen about gestational or type 2. I'll link down to where you can get in touch with her, and she'll get back to you, which is awesome.
and thank you for this opportunity, Danielle. I really appreciate
Of
this.
course, my pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to share your story with us. It's very nice of you, and I'm sure it's very helpful to many people watching. So,
I hope so. I hope so.
all right, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And as usual, I'll check out Jen's links, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, take care.